to Game Time presented by Toyota. LeBron James and the Los Angeles Lakers will be on the road tonight to take on the Bucks. Lakers 7-0 on the road. Did I mention the Bucks? Well,
yes,
this young man, Giannis Antetokounmpo, of course, he has been killing it. 2 triple-doubles already this season. They're 6-1 at home, but coming off of a loss. And that's not the only game that we've got for you guys. Over on TNT, Pels and the Jazz. Zion Williamson coming off of back-to-back 30-point games. Can he repeat, or is that a three-peat 3D? We'll get to that. Donovan Mitchell for the Utah Jazz. He's averaging just over 20 points a game, 23. Can the Jazz find their winning ways at home? Because they are currently 3-2. Hey there, everybody. I'm Stephanie Reddy. Welcome inside the studio. We got Dennis Scott, 3D, a.k.a.
Leave it.
Love it. So glad you guys are here. We've got 3 games in the NBA tonight, 2 over on TNT. We're going to talk about everything. We talked about the Bucks and the Lakers, how they're matched up tonight. Both teams coming off of a loss, which leads us, Dennis, to Monday night. The Milwaukee Bucks. They did not play their best basketball against the Nets.
No, and we're looking at Brooklyn Nets the other night, trying to figure out everyone being on the floor for the first time. And I think that's what the Bucks have to understand. That's what they're dealing with now.
And also, the Lakers, the other team, they lost. They played the Golden State Warriors, and Warriors are looking pretty good.
Yes, and I think most people are worried about Steph shooting the basketball. What I'm most all about is his leadership, getting the young guys and all the new people to understand how the Warriors play. And slowly but surely, they're starting to figure it out game by game.
And look at this fourth quarter from Monday. You can see what happened. The Lakers did not play well. Only 8 points in the paint. Is that significant, Dennis?
Yes, because you would think Anthony Davis would figure out a way to get more involved in the paint. Obviously, Draymond Green's a big-time defender. We know young fella Wiseman still trying to figure out how to play defense consistently here in the NBA. And, of course, at the end of the day, LeBron always figures out a way to attack the paint either by dribble penetration or AD post-up or pick and roll. So it was kind of strange to those numbers, like how come a LeBron-led team at this point in his career or this early in the season to figure that out? Is it a one-game situation? Most likely, you would expect that to bounce back, but it is a stat that now you figure out other defense can use this as a sample size on the defensive end.
And we see their record, home versus road. We know it's early. It is a small sample size. But when you're on the road and you have not lost, 7 is a pretty good amount of games. What does that say about this Lakers team?
Well, they're still trying to figure out with some of the new guys, and I think LeBron talked about it early on. I just used, Dennis Schroeder, for example. They call him Dennis the Menace. But guys like that who have been bounced around a little bit, they've gotten decent contracts, but now he's learning how to be a champion. And you don't learn how to be a champion overnight, otherwise everyone will be doing that
right.
stuff. You've been around a long time, you understand this game as well. So I think guys like that come into a situation saying, this is how we prepare each day. This is how I need to prepare myself because this is an important piece to try to win a championship.
Now, this matchup tonight, Lakers and Bucks, a lot of people thought that was going to be the finals matchup from the previous season. So what are we expecting out of this matchup tonight?
Well, I'm glad we showed Dennis, Schroeder, because I like to call him Little Goldie as well. He's just so important. With Rondo leaving and moving on,
right.
Avery Bradley didn't even really play in the bubble, but he was part of the team early in the season to help build up that record. So I think a lot falls on him. And if he can really find his groove and understand that, be you, but not too much of you that disrupts the team to understand it's LeBron's team and AD's future team, as they grow. But you're very important. Now, for Giannis, how do you mix in where I'm going to shoot my occasional 3, but I still have to attack? But guess what? Let Drew Holiday be Drew Holiday. Chris Middleton, we need you to step up a little bit more because you've shown us in the regular season you guys can be the best in the regular season. But when those lights get a little bit brighter, now we don't see the best. How do you get those 2 guys to step up on the same level as the MVP?
It's a great question. I mean, you take a look at Anthony Davis and what he's been able to do. Last game, season highs for him, 17 boards, 7 assists. Is it going to take that type of performance for Anthony Davis to make the Lakers successful?
Yeah, most people thought the other day, Steph, I was crazy by saying it's time for AD to make it clearly that it's his team. We know LeBron's great. And right now, LeBron's still proving it's still LeBron's team. And somehow, some way, I go back to when D. Wade and LeBron got together back in Miami, and they got off to a slow start, and D-Wade said, you know what, LeBron, look, man, I know it's my team, Miami and all that. Man, go do you. AD, we know LeBron's LeBron. Go do you, bro. You're unstoppable on both ends of the floor. Go back to being that guy. We know it's only been, 70 or 61 days, whatever that number is, since the bubble won the championship.
Right.
So we understand that takes a toll on their body. But AD, you're that good, dude. You're that good.
So for the Bucks, we talked about Middleton. You think maybe he could do a little bit more. What is the impact of Drew Holiday?
I think Drew can take some of that pressure off of Chris and Giannis from the standpoint late game situations. We know Drew can get to his spot. He can get somewhere on the floor. And more importantly, Steph, he's attacking the defense. Now that pressure on the defense makes you focus. And we know he can distribute the ball with the best of them. And also, too, in Bud Ball, you can shoot the three. And that's one of the things that Drew Holiday can do. So what we've seen in the season now, the fact that he shares the ball more, that's part of Bud Ball, and it becomes contagious. So when you make, 19 threes in one game, 15, 17 threes consistently now here early in the season, it's all because the ball's hopping and Drew Holiday's a part of that.
So when you talk about the Lakers, you obviously know it's LeBron James, Anthony Davis. They have to perform every night. But what does that performance look like? Is it going to be points? Is it going to be assists? When you talk about LeBron James, remember last season, what he did in that assist column. The numbers aren't there this year. Does that matter?
No, well, people are looking at the assist number. That's not LeBron's fault. LeBron's still passing. There's a lot of missing going on right now. So it's very similar with Denver with the Joker. When you put the effort in each night, you're going to get the rebounds, right? You'll get a few points, but you cannot make your teammates make wide open shots that you've created for them. So that's the struggle early on in the season for LeBron assists. Last year, guys were making shots at a high level. That's why he led the league in assists pretty much all season long. I think ended up winning the whole thing, right? Yeah. So same thing now. Guys aren't making those same shots early in the season. I think Laker Nation's not panicking because they know the pieces are there. It's just taking a little longer than they wanted to for that chemistry to get locked in. Now, the problem is 72 games, a few banged up guys. How do you fix that in the shortened season?
All right, and let me be clear. 7.5 assists is not a
paltry. That's shabby.
Right.
But he spoiled us last year.
He did.
That's
he really
did.
I think we're all guilty of that for his entire career.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Ron, what can we do? Ladies and gentlemen, as I mentioned, 3 games in the NBA. Lots to talk about tonight, especially this guy, Kyrie Irving, back in action for the Nets. The big 3, is it going to work? Showed off against the Brooklyn Nets. Career high, 42 points, 22 points in both overtimes combined.
Message to all you young players out there, male and female. When someone tells you you can't do something, the way you shut them up is go in the gym when no one's watching. That's what Colin Sexton has been doing since his 1 year at Alabama, since he left high school here in Atlanta. Everyone said the young man cannot shoot. Well, if that's what cannot shoot is in the fourth quarter and overtime, going against an all-star, going against an Olympian, going against a champion, then guess what, people? That's what hard work is. That's what putting in work is. That's what they say as the youngsters say, I'm in the gym putting in that work. Y'all don't want this smoke. Well, guess what? Colin Sexton took that smoke, took Kyrie Irving the other night, to the Brooklyn Nets. So the toughness, having that nickname as the young bull on his back, it was just fun to watch that. It was. You know what? We know Cleveland doesn't have a great talented team. We know they have some good pieces. We know they're low to the totem pole. But one thing Coach Bickerstaff has done is made sure these guys compete every night, and they've done that as a big win for them.
Huge win. I mean, and we can say all we want about the lack of defense for the Brooklyn Nets. We just showed you all that full screen graphic. It's not where Coach Nash wants it to be, that's for sure. But you still have to show up. And I think J.B. Bickerstaff has done a great job with his team.
No.
But let's talk about Brooklyn's defense. How significant is that, Dennis?
It's very significant. You saw maybe a possession here and there early in the game. I think they started the game making the first 10 shots. But that's easy. We all know when you're making shots, I want to bounce around, play defense, communicate, everything's going well. But when they hit that lull and they couldn't make some shots, and Cleveland went on that run, no one looked at the next guy and said, come on, man, let's get a stop right now. During a 12-0 run, or I think it was 14-2 run, let's get a stop. No, Steve Nash had to call timeout to slow things down, to regroup. Then they got back in the ball game. And then you get in overtime. No, it was Olay. Young Bull could get to wherever he wanted to on the floor and get his shot. So we know offensively, watching these highlights, that's not the problem, people. We know those 3 guys can score at will. We saw at the beginning of the ball game. It's going to be late game situation before overtime. Game was tied. I think they were up 1. They had a chance to go ahead and put things away. You had to get a stop. Young Bull comes down, knocks down a huge 3. We go to overtime. Those are the situations we're going to nitpick until they figure it out.
And Kyrie Irving is going to have to play a huge role in figuring it out. This was our first opportunity to see the big 3 in Brooklyn together. We know that James Harden and Kevin Durant can play together. We've seen that before. How can Kyrie fit in with those 2 MVPs and make this thing work?
Kyrie, check your ego. Remember how you did with Kevin Love and LeBron and that good team you had in Cleveland and why you're a champion. If you can find that Kyrie and tap into that guy and say, hey, man, let's check our ego a little bit and figure out who we are and what we're trying to do. If he does that, they're not going to have a problem. We saw Kyrie dive on the floor last night. We saw Kyrie go get an offensive rebound in traffic. The effort's there. Just do it on the other end. Everything you're going through personal, that's you and your family's business. Figure that out. We want you to get well. But once you step on the floor, do whatever Steve Nash, Kevin Durant, James Harden, the rest of that crew needs to do to try to win a championship.
James Harden, glad you brought him up. What can he do? He is the new kid on the block, technically, right?
Yeah.
Technically.
Right.
But what can he do to, I don't want to say appease the others, but to fit in seamlessly?
So far, he's done a heck of a job. I mean, he has the record now, first guy to change team to get a triple-double with 30 points. That's incredible. He's getting to the free throw line. Steve Nash has made the game real simple for him with a lot of pick-and-roll action. It all goes back to the other end. There was one play we showed the other night where he swiped at it, Kyrie swiped at it, and the Cleveland Cavaliers got an easy layup. Once they figure out that effort on the defensive end consistently, we won't be talking about that anymore. We'll be talking about, can they win 1? Can they win 2? Can they go to the Eastern Conference Championship 2 years in a row? All that will change so quickly. Remember how it changed with Milwaukee?
Yes.
Now the same thing we're talking about with Philly. We're not saying the same thing about Boston like we did 2 years ago because they figured out on the offensive end because they knew they could play defense. Now it's the opposite with them, with Brooklyn. We know you can play offense. You gotta figure out how to play the defense, and that's where all the narratives will change. We've been around and seen it too much, right? Those 2 guys right there. Anywhere in the world, you'll never question their offensive talent, right? You'll never question their offensive creativity. Never, ever, ever. But we never, ever talked about their defensive creativity, their defensive prowess. That's the narrative has to change before we say Brooklyn can be a serious championship contender.
It's interesting you bring that up because they both have stellar reputations.
Come on.
For decades
Hall of
with
Famer.
D'Antoni over in
Hall of
Italy,
Fame.
all the way here,
Come on,
right?
Hall of Fame.
So one other piece of the puzzle, if you want to be a championship team, is your bench has to be deep enough, especially in today's climate with COVID and the protocols. Is this enough?
Calderon, Perry, Brown, y'all need to get in the gym. Get in the gym and play defense. Joe Harris, we know who you are. We're afraid of you. You're not just a three-point shooter in the regular season game. You're a three-point shooter in a champion all-star weekend. That's what they need him on the floor for to keep things stretched out on the offensive end. Now, one thing about Joe, he comes from the University of Virginia, so he knows how to play defense and has a defensive mentality from Coach Bennett. So it's that 5th guy. Is it going to be DeAndre? Can DeAndre have a flashback in the pan from the Clipper days? Can they find someone else in free agent? I know a lot of people talked about Alex Len being released recently, another 7-footer that you can probably bring in and plug. But they will need Uncle Jeffrey hit some big threes yesterday. He's going to be serviceable. But you're going to need some more bigger bodies as you advance.
You know, you bring up a good point about the bench and defense. Everyone always talks about bench scoring, right? 10 points off the bench, that's not enough. With a team that struggles defensively, maybe the bench's role is to ignite some defensive prowess.
Yes, each night's a little different, though, depending on who you're playing, because certain nights you get off to a fast start, and you may need a defensive juggernaut to come in and slow things down. But the other night, Kyrie comes back, Joe Harris goes back to the bench. That answers your question. Now they have some offensive firepower, but you still need another bigger body for rebounding the defense so you can give Durant a little longer rest. Those guys played 50 and 46 and I think 48 minutes the other night, and coming off of injuries and the trade, and Kyrie had a layoff. So now you got to bounce back and play again against those Cavaliers, and you got to have a game Saturday. So the season's starting to pick up now, and you got to figure out how do I get these guys enough rest knowing that there's not a lot of practice time. So interesting. I'm loving this, all of it, the storylines and how these teams are developing. We'll continue to watch and talk about it for you guys. As I mentioned, 3 games in the NBA tonight. First game on TNT,
Lakers, Bucks, Chris Middleton. He's averaging 22 points.
He balling.
6 rebounds, 5 assists.
Give me
Pretty
some
good
more,
line.
Chris. Give me some more.
Come on, more than that.
I
We're
want
going to start off with the Lakers-Bucks game. Easy one for you, Tim. Who wins the game?
Yeah, maybe not so easy, right? Last time the Lakers went up to Milwaukee, they got beat up on. And I had told my wife that was a work trip. But actually, Danny Green, who was on the Lakers last year, left me the tickets. And Milwaukee was the best matchup. I think this is a revenge game for LeBron. And not just on Giannis, also on Monday. What happened to the Lakers when they fell apart to the Warriors? They played 7 road games this year. They're 7-0. And I don't think they get any extra motivation, but I still think he's out there trying to prove that he's the best player in the league. I think he is still the best player in the league. So him against Giannis, I'm going to go with the Lakers in this spot.
All right, Tim. Which team will make more threes?
This one's easy, okay? The game, maybe not so much, but Milwaukee shoots 8 more threes a game than the Lakers. So this is just a pure numbers game. And give the franchise credit. The Bucks built the team with shooters around Giannis. And the way Giannis is so dynamic as far as creating shots, and then now he starts making those shots. This is easy. Obviously, the game has changed to where everyone is shooting the three, but Milwaukee is making 5.5 more threes per game than the Lakers. Like I said, they're shooting more threes. So this is easy. Go with the Bucks.
All right, now this one, I'm very curious. We'll talk about this more off camera because I don't know how you're going to decide this one. But which team will score first in the second half?
You know, I just see like pregnant women in the supermarket and I go, boy, girl, boy. No, that's actually not true at all. All right, but who's going to score first in the second half? I'm going to go Bucks here. I do think that Giannis maybe gets a putback and that's how they score. But yeah, this is a tough one because it's almost impossible to handicap this, just like it's impossible to handicap if you're going to have boy or girl. But I'm going to go Bucks here.
I'm glad you backed that one up a little bit. All right, let's go on to the second game, okay? Pelicans and Jazz. Who will shoot a better field goal percentage?
I mean, the Jazz are white hot right now. They've won 6 straight games, and during that winning streak, they're shooting nearly 50%. I think they're playing with great continuity. You know what they're playing with? Swag. And now that they're healthy, I think everyone's really understood their role. They've been dominant as of late. Oh, by the way, these teams just played, and the Jazz beat up on the Pelicans, so I think they're going to win again. So this is easy as far as who shoots a better percentage. Got to go Utah.
All right, good. Well, speaking of easy, I think this one's probably easy. Zion Williamson right now averaging 23 points. So will he score 19 points?
If loving Zion Williamson is wrong, I don't want to be right. Okay, I stole that from Coming to America, right? That's a whole nother thing. But yeah, of course, he's going to go over this number. Think about this. In January alone, he's averaging 26 points a game. Wait, all I need to do is get more than 19, so that means 20, and I'm a winner? You know, every game this month over that number, and the minutes are up. We all expected that. He's playing about 5 more minutes a game, but the production is up as well. He seems to be getting better each and every night. No matter if the Jazz are playing great basketball, they can't stop Big Z. I'm going to go over here. Zion Williamson gets to 20 or more.
Yeah, I normally don't play these games, but I'm with you on this one, Tim. I mean, he's got back-to-back 30-point games, so I think 19 is in the bag. All right, last one for you, Timmy. Which team will win the game?
I'm going to go Jazz here, okay? And I'm actually disappointed you're not sitting down because listen closely. The Utah Jazz are going to win the NBA championship this year.
Oh.
All right, you heard it here first. You might have heard it here last, all right? I believe in this squad. And I love the fact that Spider Mitchell said, forget about trying to win one playoff series. We're trying to win the whole thing. And now, Stephanie, it's all starting to come together for them. Rudy Gobert is in the prime of his career. Mike Conley and Donovan Mitchell, this is year 2 of those guys playing together. Nobody in the NBA scores more points off the bench than Jordan Clarkson. So, I think the key to their team is 2 guys. I think it's Bogdanovich and Ingles. When those guys can make shots on the perimeter, now that opens up lanes for Donovan Mitchell. It opens up Rudy Gobert down low. But this year, I'm disappointed you're not sitting down. Are you sitting down right now?
Not yet.
The Jazz are going to win the title.
I'm going to be sitting down shortly, though, okay? But I appreciate the prediction. Tim, thank you so much for your time. I hope everyone at home had their devices locked and loaded.
Thanks, Stephanie.
All right, we'll see you again. And if you're at home, don't forget, lock in your picks at NBA.com/primetimepicks for your chance to win. We're not finished here. We still have a lot more to talk about. Here's a look inside Vivint Smart Home Arena, the home of the Utah Jazz. They will be hosting the Pelicans 10 p.m. start time over on Teated by Toyota. You can see Steph Curry on this list. He only needs 9 3-pointers to pass Reggie Miller. Well, on the first 2021 edition of Shooter's Paradise, R3D goes the distance with Steph Curry's high school coach, Sean Brown of Charlotte Christian. The two discuss his first impression of Steph, the moment he handed him the keys to his program, and the evolution of his game. Let's check it out.
Welcome to another edition of Shooter's Paradise. I'm super excited to talk to Coach Sean Brown of Christian School in Charlotte. And yes, we're talking about the great Steph Curry. Take us back to the first time you saw him shoot the basketball and what went through your mind?
Probably just watching Stephen in middle school and just how he'd go up and down the floor and just kind of let it fly at will. And you would just go, man, this guy, does he ever miss?
Was it surprising because when you go back and look at those old videos and pictures, he is skinny as a noodle. Like, what's going through your mind? Like, this skinny kid is jacking up shots, playing free spirited. How did you know to let that free?
Because he understood how to really play the game. And I'll give one quick example of that. So at the end of his freshman year, we brought him up for our state tournament. And I always knew throughout the year that we would bring him up towards the end. So we put him in kind of towards the end of the game. He dribbles down. I think he passed it. He caught it back. He lets it rip. It's nothing but net. And I look right over. Coach Howson was the name. Coach David Howson, one of my assistants at the time. I look over and I said, Coach, we're giving this kid the keys to our program, the next 3 years.
Wow.
And we had a pretty special 3-year run. We're talking about Stephen now, but we had a lot of good players to us around him as well.
When you look back on that, did it ever say to you, why weren't the bigger name coaches coming into the gym?
Well, my take on that would be, first of all, being a Christ follower, that God had under control the whole time. But to answer your question, I simply think he just didn't pass the eye test. He has some skills that you can't give to him. He already possesses that. The gaining of weight, helping him maybe become a little bit quicker and all those things, you can teach him. And then he had a great person in his father that continuously walked him through stages of that. Maybe on the nights, maybe he was not as consistent, knocking down shots that good shooters, now great shooters, you continue to shoot.
Is there one thing that marvels you more? The father, the husband, the philanthropist, how hard he works? What marvels you the most about Steph?
I would say in all of his success, again, going back to him being a product of a Christian family, a Christian school, him remaining solid in his faith, keeping his family first. And then in this game of basketball, he's really been able to utilize that, I think, to reach others in a positive manner. With all the accolades, he continues to be humble. But for him in particular, staying true to his faith, it's been really awesome to watch him grow in that manner.
Did you see this greatness then? Or were you saying, no, he was really good? I didn't think he'd be this good.
We just firmly believe if he was ever given a chance because of his work ethic, and partly also because of just how Dell and Sonia did a tremendous job rearing their kids, that you crack the door of opportunity, he would figure out a way how to take advantage of that, and that work ethic would take him a very long way. Very proud of what he's doing currently. And even if he was to watch this, I would want to say to you, Stephen, right now, again, Charlotte Christian as a whole cannot be proud of you as well as all the other guys that have gone through in this program. But we continue to pray for you and want you to continue to do well and keep the name of Jesus on the forefront of what you're doing.
Well done, Dennis. Excellent job. Very interesting. What did you take away from that?
That when we were talking with, all the great minds around here, we try to figure out how can we go a little deeper and a little different with Shooter's Paradise, because obviously we know we're talking about the three-point shot. And then we started talking about where did it all begin? And why does a guy like Steph Curry, where all of our kids love him, all the basketball now has coined him and crowned him the best shooter ever, rightfully so. But where did it start? How did his high school coach see him? Why wasn't he a 5-star recruit? Why are parents today caught up in, my son has to go to a private school, he has to go to a prep school, he has to play this part of the country? Well, what school did Giannis Antetokounmpo go to? Did he go to a private school here? Did he go to a prep school here?
No,
what school did Luka Doncic go to? So what I'm trying to tell these parents about reclassifying, if you reclassify your child, you're basically telling your child he can't play.
Right.
I'm just being real honest with you. Put your child in the right training, tell your child to work hard, and everything else falls into place. Steph Curry just showed you that. So I think this, we say new realm of Shooter's Paradise, we're shooting a little more straight to the people at home on why and how we become great shooters. We don't wake up overnight. You have to put in the work. You have to believe in what you're doing. And I think now it's time to tap into the high school coaches, because those are the first ones that see us. Those are the first ones that really instill the hard work, the work ethic, playing together, playing the right way.
Right.
You heard the coach say, at the end of his freshman year, he comes into the game and jacks up a deep shot. Most people don't do that. There is confidence in what you do. And then you have a father, actually, that played in the NBA, so you're around the culture, you understand the hard work. So it was just fun. So we have some more coming.
Can't
I'm
wait.
just super excited. I'm just happy for the bosses upstairs. That, through this whole pandemic, you had to get more creative. This was the one we came up with to kind of take us into another level.
I love it. I love it, and I love the message it's sending to the fans at home, especially the younger ones. Hard work always pays off.
It
James
never
and I have
fails.
been talking to you. Okay. Thank you, Dennis. Appreciate you as always. Excellent
Yes.
job with Shooter's Paradise. We're going to look forward to seeing a lot more as so good.
Ooh, deep.
So good. So many things you can take away from that, Dennis, but you and I are both parents. And so you talk about the impact things that happen in society have on your children, and how do you handle that? How do you handle it?
I'm still trying to figure out, to be honest with you, because it's probably the most difficult time to be a young parent trying to explain what the world is going through, because we were just talking about it where our kids today can pick up their phone and Google what's going on. Then you say to yourself, are you going to let your kids be educated by the phone, or are you going to sit down and have these hard conversations? And that was the hard part, to have that conversation and to share some of the stories that our uncles and aunts, my great-grandmother. So I had a chance to meet my great-grandmother, my great-great-grandmother, and grandma. So it's like all those. So I got lucky to meet someone at 99 years old and explain what they went through. And not saying, oh, baby, that phone, I don't know what that is. Like we have fun laughing about it now, but then they tell you some deeper stories where they had to walk to work on one side of the floor, or walk to school, or go to the bathroom on one side of the school. So all those deep stories and deep pains that they share, you have to share with these kids, because now they may look at the phone or look at their iPad and say, well, this told me this, the news told me this. No, let me tell you what grandma told me. And this is what she went through. And that's when things kind of calm down a little bit and say, well, this is kind of hard to have this conversation, but if you don't educate your kids, someone else will.
It's a really good point. And often, if they ask questions that you don't know the answer to, it is a hard conversation, and you're struggling with the why. Why would someone do that? And how do you answer that?
It's hard to answer, but I think what our world has shown us this past year is that now it's time to sit down and have these elephant in the room conversations. Stop running from it. Mental health. No, your buddy's not tapped, or he's not a little special. No, he's sick. He or she is sick. So it's time to have these conversations, and maybe that was 2020 was all about, for us to have deeper vision and deeper conversation within our families, within our homes.
Harry Edwards brought up a great point about platforms. Athletes have the largest platform they've ever had because of these phones. They can speak directly to the people, and I like to see them using their powers.
And I'm glad
good.
our guys did that in the bubble. They educated themselves and used their platform.
It was excellent. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're not finished here yet. We've got a nice little feel-good picture for you. Look at this. The brothers Antetokounmpo.
They're brothers. They're brothers. One's a champion, laughing at the others.
Hey, there's a couple MVPs in there, too.
Oh, yes. Another one said, I got MVP,
Right?
though.
We'll be back, guys. Anthony Davis and the Los Angeles Lakers on the road to take on the Bucks. That's over on TNT. Game time, 7:30 Eastern. They're 7-0 on the road, hoping to continue that streak. Head coach Frank Vogel of the Los Angeles Lakers had a pregame presser. Remember, this is all virtual, so prepare yours. Let's listen in.
Wondering what's at the top of the scouting report on this one, if there's one area that you think is most important against Milwaukee.
Well, probably number one thing is getting back in transition. They're a great fast breaking team, and they've that's where they're most difficult to guard. Trying to contain Giannis by bringing 3-4 people in front of him without giving up threes, because they're shooting the lights out from the perimeter. So that's at the top of scouting report for me.
The road has been kind to you so far, Frank. Is there anything that you've drawn from that in this particular season and all of the unique circumstances?
It's tough to put your finger on it. I think there's different reasons, why we've lost some home games, but had such success on the road. I think it's opponent based, where we're at, in the schedule. A lot of the home losses have come after win streaks where, we maybe got a little complacent. And then you go on the road after a tough loss and, you're more motivated to get that W. So, one of those things that evens out over the course of the season.
Frank, the numbers on the starting lineup have been really good, exceptional, kind of on both ends of the court. Just wondered what stood out to you the most about Mark and Dennis joining the three hangovers from last year.
Well, we play with great space. Mark at the 5 position, spacing the floor out there, but also giving us, a 7-foot center behind our defense. There's a lot of value in both of those elements that he brings to the table. KCP and Dennis bring great speed, defensively in particular, but both have the ability to get into the paint and punish the defense when double teams are brought to AD and LeBron. So and obviously any lineup with Bron and AD in there at the same time has been good for us.
That sounds pretty smart.
Yes, I would agree. Saturday on NBA TV. Don't miss it. 7:30 p.m. That's Eastern Time. Miami Heat, Brooklyn Nets. Coverage begins at 7 with the CarMax pregame show right here on NBA TV. Make sure you guys tune in. Take a look inside Fiserv Forum. That's the home of the Milwaukee Bucks. They are hosting the Lakers.
Hang in there, fans. Hang in there.
I know. Home record.
We miss y'all
6-1.
Hang in there.
We'll be back with a little bit more. Anthony Davis and the Los Angeles Lakers on the road to take on the Bucks. That's over on TNT. Game time, 7:30 Eastern. They're 7-0 on the road, hoping to continue that streak. Head coach Frank Vogel of the Los Angeles Lakers had a pregame presser. Remember, this is all virtual, so prepare yourselves. Let's listen in.
Wondering what's at the top of the scouting report on this one, if there's one area that you think is most important against Milwaukee.
Well, probably number one thing is getting back in transition. They're a great fast-breaking team, and that's where they're most difficult to guard. Trying to contain Giannis by bringing 3 or 4 people in front of him without giving up threes because they're shooting the lights out from the perimeter. So, that's at the top of scouting report for me.
The road has been kind to you so far, Frank. Is there anything that you've drawn from that in this particular season and all of the unique circumstances?
It's tough to put your finger on it. I think there's different reasons, why we've lost some home games, but had such success on the road. I think it's opponent based, where we're at, in the schedule. A lot of the home losses have come after win streaks where, we maybe got a little complacent. And then you go on the road after a tough loss and, you're more motivated to get that W. So, one of those things that evens out over the course of the season.
Frank, the numbers on the starting lineup have been really good, exceptional, kind of on both ends of the court. Just wondered what stood out to you the most about Mark and Dennis joining the 3 hangovers from last year.
Well, we play with great space. Mark at the 5 position, spacing the floor out there, but also giving us, a 7-foot center behind our defense. There's a lot of value in both of those elements that he brings to the table. KCP and Dennis bring great speed, defensively in particular, but both have the ability to get into the paint and punish the defense when double teams are brought to AD and LeBron. So and obviously any lineup with Bron and AD in there at the same time has been good for us.
That sounds pretty smart.
Yes, I would agree. Saturday on NBA TV. Don't miss it. 7:30 p.m. That's Eastern Time. Miami Heat, Brooklyn Nets. Coverage begins at 7 with the CarMax pregame show right here on NBA TV. Make sure you guys tune in. Take a look inside Fiserv Forum. That's the home of the Milwaukee Bucks. They are hosting the Lakers.
Hang in there, fans. Hang in there.
I know. Home record.
We miss y'all
6-1.
Hang in there.
We'll be back with a little bit more.